Hi there, my name is Catherine Kennedy and thank you for joining us for P2P Live this week, our weekly jobs and employment market update going live across Australia, across a range of social platforms. Thank you for joining us. I'm in Sydney, which is the beautiful lands of the Gadigal people, so I wanted to acknowledge that it is the last Friday in September, which means we are heading into the footy fever season. It's the AFL Grand Final this weekend, so I wouldn't be a true Sydney sider if I didn't say up the Swannies. So hopefully we get a win for the Sydney Swans this week, and yeah, we can rub that in the face of our Brisbane colleagues. But anyway, that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about what's happening in the world of jobs and employment. So as always, we've got some data to share with you today around a stat of the week. So we'll get to that in a moment. We've got hot jobs that need to be filled literally as early as Monday here in Australia. We've got some jobs from across the different locations in different countries that we have. We've also got a guest with us today from our team here in Sydney, Remi, who's our marketing manager, really to talk about what some of the challenges are managing a 4-generation workforce. We're now in a situation where there are 4 generations in the workforce. There's different things that are important to each of those generations. So we're going to be joined by Remi, who's going to have a chat to us about that as well. So that's the plan for today. Let's get into it to start with our stat of the week. So some jobs numbers came out in Australia last week, so fairly recent news, and that's around unemployment. So the unemployment rate in Australia held steady at 4.2%, which is no change from the month prior, and is actually pretty consistent with what it was at the beginning of the year. It's been a little bit lumpy since then, but it's holding at just over 4%, which is really a fairly low unemployment rate when you look historically throughout the months and years, as you can see on the graph there. It does indicate that there's still a relatively resilient employment and jobs and labour market. So that's definitely something that is a consideration. By no means am I an economist, but I know that one of the considerations around when interest rates might start to drop is around when the labour market starts to slow a bit. At 4.2% unemployment, it's still relatively resilient and relatively robust. The other indicator of that is that hours worked in this last period actually increased by almost 0.5%, so 0.4% increase in literally the hours that people are working, which is another indicator that the labour market is still relatively resilient. The other interesting piece of data that came out is around the participation rate. Now, the participation rate is of all of the potential workforce who is actually actively either participating or wanting to participate in the workforce. That is at 67.1%, which is a record high. So there's definitely very high levels of participation. There could be a whole bunch of factors contributing to that. The cost of living probably is one of them. But that's the data that came out this week, and it does indicate that the unemployment and the labour market and the unemployment rate is fairly steady as she goes compared to how it was last month. So what we might do now is move to our hot jobs and the jobs that we need to get filled this week. Okay, so we've got a couple of jobs that need to be filled urgently. You can see on the screen there the details for the first one, which is a content editor. That is a temporary position. It's based in Queensland and being managed by 𝗲𝗲𝗄𝗃, who's in our Brisbane team up there. So being temporary, it's on an hourly rate looking between sort of $67 up to $72 per hour. You will be migrating content from the intranet to a new platform. You need to have experience with intranet migration previously. 𝗲𝗲𝗄𝗃's details are on the screen there, and you can reach out to him if you have got that relevant experience or would like to know more. We've also got a permanent position that needs to be filled. So this is a business support officer here in Sydney, where I am. So that role is being led by Lauren in our Sydney team there. It is business support officer, as I said, looking at about $85,000 to $90,000 as a full-time salary. There's a fair amount of travel arrangements, both domestic and international, in this role. So you need to have that understanding of how the time zones would work as well, including there's management of meetings and diaries, which will be across time zones as well, looking for some reasonable experience in office coordination or similar. This could put you on a path towards a PA or an executive assistant position as well. So Lauren's details are there and you can reach out to her. We also have from our colleagues in different countries, they're also keen to get the word out in Australia about some of the positions that they need filled. So if you or someone you know is interested in a working holiday in either the UK or in New Zealand, these are some opportunities perhaps that they could consider. So from our London team, they're looking for a publishing contracts executive and a marketing executive. And then across the ditch in Auckland, they're looking for a senior HR advisor. So if you are interested in any of those particular roles, you can reach out to the team. But equally, if you are considering going and doing a working holiday in either of those two countries, please reach out to the people-to-people team because they definitely will want to hear from you and hopefully find you some temporary work while you're there on your working holiday. So we're now joined, as I said, by our marketing manager, Remi Marcelin. Hi there, Remi. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Not the greatest day in Sydney, but
the marketing man is on the other side of the camera, which is always nice to see. So we wanted to talk to you, and I think you went and did a presentation with some of the team recently up in Brisbane, but around this multi-generational or 4-generation workforce. So amazingly, there's baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Generation Z, I refuse to say Z, Generation Z. So how do the retention factors differ across all of those different generations? Why do you think there's differences as well?
So I guess I wish generations were extremely different from one another, but I think at the end of the day, you really have to just look at the stage of life they're in. So typically for Gen Z, what we found is that because they are so Gen Z or Generation Z, as Kath likes to call it, Generation Z
I
is
think
all
you're allowed
about.
to say Z because that's what you would normally say.
So Gen Z, they are 15 to 29. So they are, for those who are actually in the workforce, they are very much at the beginning of their career. So for them, career opportunities and then salary will be pretty much their strongest focus. For millennials who are, I think it's 30 to 45, they are a bit more established in their career. They might also be transitioning. So at this stage of their life, some of them might be considering having children. So for this reason, I think career opportunities is still a big factor, but they start looking at having, I guess, more benefits. Can I have a better work-life balance or a bit more flexibility so I can work around having kids or having a bit more of a comfortable lifestyle? For Gen X, again, I think career opportunities will be important, but it's just becoming less and less important. One of the reasons why that could be the case is first for for a few Gen X, they would be, I guess, quite senior or experienced in their field, which means that when you are a CFO, you're not expecting to climb the ladder every other year. The reality is at some point you have to invest 5 to 10 years of your time in one specific role to get to the next opportunity. So for this reason, I think career opportunities start to it's still important, but it's just not the primary focus. And then management trust becomes something that really matters to them. And I guess boomers who are 60 to 78 go one step further, where it's really all about looking at your the quality of your work life. So do your managers trust you? Do they have a leadership style that actually matches the way you work? Does your work have purpose? Like, do you actually feel like you're making an impact? So those are the kind of retention levels that the baby boomers would be looking at.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So people perhaps earlier in their career in that generation, Z, it's more that they're looking for that development. What's the next opportunity? And money is important to them because they're in those early stages. And then as it goes on, it becomes a little bit more, that's still important to people, but it's also around alignment with the leadership style and making sure that it's meaningful work and making sure that I've heard you say the word trust a number of times, which I know anecdotally is definitely something that people say to us as well when they're thinking about whether they join somewhere or whether they stay somewhere, as well as is that trust.
Yeah. I think
sorry, after you.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say, I think that leads nicely into the what I wanted to ask you about next, which is around work from home, expectations around remote working, even like the frequency of days people are in the office or not in the office, if there's particular days. Do you see any real differences in preferences across the different generations about that side of things?
So based on the survey, I guess just to give a bit of context to the people who are listening to us, but every year, People to People run our annual employment and salary survey. That's answered by over 10,000 job seekers across Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. And so based on our survey, we actually broke down the data for each generation. And overall, I would say that for Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X, it's about the same. So I think it's about 15% who are looking at just who are looking at no working from home at all. One day a week for like another 15%. 40% would be keen on 2 days working from home stories, and then the rest are just looking at a bit even more. I think the big difference that we've seen with the generations is actually for baby boomers who, while they have very similar, they are very similar in proportions when it comes to working from home 2 days a week and 1 day a week, the proportion of baby boomers who are very keen to work from the office full time is actually much higher. So one in 3 baby boomers would be keen to go to the office every day, and that's something that's actually twice more than the rest. So I think it's possibly also just being used to working from the office and seeing working from home has great advantages, obviously, but also I think for baby boomers, they probably value the advantages of working from the office a bit more.
Yeah, okay. And maybe even that clear separation between work and life as well. Whereas, one of the challenges when you work at home is that in your home is also your work, and those lines can get blurred a little bit. That's interesting. You mentioned our salary and market report, the P2P post. So I just want to, I guess, reiterate that it is a report that's very comprehensive. So if anybody's watching and would like to get access to that, you can reach out to the team. We will be releasing one come the new year, but we've definitely got the report for 2024 that's still got some really relevant information, and this sort of stuff as well, which we've really reached far and wide to get some insights on. So thank you for your work on preparing all of that, Remi, and thanks for your time today.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. As always, we'll wrap up with our polls. So always very interested to hear what you have to say around the various things we put out to the market. So the question that we posed last week is on the screen there. Would you rather work for a company aligned with your values but with lower pay, or one misaligned with your values but offering higher pay. And I don't think I've seen a result that's been so firmly one way than the other in a long time, and that is that 95% of people have said, I'll take less money for an organisation that's aligned with my values. So that just speaks, I guess, to some of the things Remi and I were talking about around purpose and feeling that you're working somewhere where you're making a difference. So that's interesting, and thank you for your participation in that. We would like to ask you a question this week, which we'll put on all of our social channels, and you can answer you can answer them wherever is most convenient for you. So with more companies mandating a return to the office full time, we are seeing that there's more and more mandates to be 100% of your working week in the office. Would you consider looking for a new job if your employer enforced this policy? So I'm very interested to see what the thoughts are from the market of, yes, it would make you want to look for another job. No, you wouldn't. It wouldn't bother you in terms of the whether or not you stayed, and then whether or not you would need to weigh it up, and you'd be unsure. So please jump on to any of our social channels and answer. You can see Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the social channels. We are all over. So that's it really for today. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions about any of the content today, I'm very happy for you to reach out to me directly. Our website's got a lot of information for you as well, and we will be back next week. Thank you for joining.